What's going on, guys? This is James Allen. I am recording this on Tuesday, October 21st, 2025. I've been working on a visual progress bar for my users when they do missions. So when they accept the mission, as they approach the location where the QR code is, the progress bar would fill, right? It would basically show them how close they're getting to the location. So the goal is to help the user get to the sticker as much as possible using all sorts of visual cues. And I wanted a progress bar to make things more dynamic in the app too. So it's not so static. And coding it for iOS was pretty easy. I sort of just blazed the code. I just blazed the code, man, because I'm so familiar with the Swift language. And I went and tested it, right? I went outside and walked, then jogged, right? And, I tested how the progress bar looked for Swift iOS. And sure enough, it worked. I sent an update to Apple. They approved it. And now the users for iOS at least, they have a progress bar. And I do have users, by the way. That's a news that perhaps I'll talk about another day. But there's already players within CityXcape. Now the iOS is done. Let's do Android, right? So I start coding Android, and I kid you not, every time I'm trying to make this shift, it's kind of difficult for me, right? Because I'm so used to the Swift language that every time I have to switch to Kotlin, it's like my brain just I can't flow, right? It fucks up my flow because my brain is so used to thinking one way. Now I have to think another way, right? So for me to get going in Kotlin takes a little while. But finally today, for some reason, I felt the energy and I started just blazing code. And I came out with an initial approach on Kotlin where I basically used their GPS permissions to look at, okay, what's the last location coordinate and what's the new location coordinate? That would give me a delta, right? And that delta would be the numerator. And then the denominator would be the distance between the user when they first start the mission and the target location, right? Where the sticker is. So I have that. That's a simple scalar, right? A simple value. And then the delta is basically as they move, that delta gets added over time as the numerator. And the total delta divided by the mission distance would be the progress bar, right? Visually. I'm sure you could sort of visualize the math with me. And I went and tested it earlier today. And in fact, that's all I've been doing today is change the formula, go test it, change the formula. Go. So I've been walking up and down oh my God, I don't know how many miles I've walked today because I would test the algorithm and then I wouldn't be satisfied. So I would go change the formula. I'd test the algorithm again. Not satisfied. But anyway, at some point, I realized that hey, this formula that I've used my first try, it's not valid, right? Because if the user starts moving in different directions, right? Let's just say they're going in the opposite direction of where the sticker is, the delta is still going to increase, right? So you're going to reach a point where the delta will get so big if they're traveling in the other direction, it will look like they've completed the mission or they're in the vicinity of the sticker when really they're way over in the opposite direction, right? Because the delta is growing because they are moving, right? So just pure movement alone cannot satisfy the progress bar. It has to show that they're moving in the right direction. So I was like, okay, why don't I find, what was my initial approach? My initial approach was to make a condition where if, when I calculate the initial distance between the user and the location, I'm going to save that as the mission distance, right? But then every GPS update, what I did is I looked at that new location and I calculate that new location's position to the sticker, right? And if the new distance, the new delta between the brand new location to the distance is bigger than the mission distance, then that's not a good value, right? That math is not good. So I'm not going to count that as a good step, right? So I basically created a condition where for me to count the step as valid and add it to the total step, which is the numerator of the progress bar, right? the delta, the delta between the user's new position and the mission have to be smaller than the initial mission value I calculated, basically, right? So I basically created a fence through mathematics. And I went and tested that. And it was actually doing really good. But then I realized that still wasn't enough, right? That's still, because like, even if you're within that mathematical fence I've created, right? You could still just hop around, right? You can still just like move around within that radius that meets that condition. And as the total distance you've traveled adds up, the progress bar would still get filled. And, you know, like you're still not near the mission, right? So you have to think of like all these conditions that users may do to fool you so that the app is intelligent enough to know, I'm not going to show your progress here when you really just did a lot of movement, right? So I think the final solution I ended up coming with was to use a max condition as the denominator, where I will go with the max. The two values between the max will be the delta of the new position to the sticker and the initial distance that I calculated for the mission. And since I'm always going with the max, that means like if you go in an opposite direction, it wouldn't matter, because even though your deltas would keep adding up, that denominator will still get bigger, right? But if you're going in a right direction, right, the max it could be is the initial mission distance I calculated. So as your delta grows, it will truly reflect that you're making progress towards that goddamn sticker, right? So I'm like, all right, fine. I got the algorithm calculated. I'm very satisfied. And, you know, before I move on to the story, I really want to stop and say, like, I remember when I was in college, I had like nerd friends and I had like, you know, thug friends. I had rough friends, you know. I always knew both. And I remember at one point, I was hanging out with the rough boys, but I always had math with me. I always had like a math book with me. And one of the guys, he's like one of the more aggressive ones. He got mad at me. He's like, what the fuck are you studying all this math for? You don't need shit above algebra. You know, you're wasting your time. Like, he was so freaking like brazen with me, like kind of saying like, you're making us look bad with this fucking math book, James, you know? I never forgot that. But look at me today. I'm using math that this guy used to diss and shame me for, right? So for you guys out there, study your math, because you'll really need it for engineering. Anyway, back to the story. I come back home, I'm satisfied with the algorithm, and I'm like, you know what? Before I publish it to Android, let me have ChatGPT look at it to see if he could optimize it in any way, because AI is good at that, right? So I feed it my algorithm, and ChatGPT had found like an error I made in a denominator, I believe, and it wasn't like it was like a stupid error that I made. So I went and fixed it clearly, and I gave ChatGPT back the algorithm. He's like, okay, it's good, but here's a suggestion to tighten it up, right? And I'm like, okay, let's hear it, because that's what I'm here for. ChatGPT gives me a solution. I look at the solution, guys, and I'm like, this looks wrong. You know, this looks wrong. And at first I was just going to dismiss it. I'll be like, you know, whatever, you know, and just like move on. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to teach a lesson with this. So I went and copied ChatGPT's code, guys, and did the same thing. Went outside again and started walking towards the sticker to see what the progress bar would look like. And it didn't move. I mean, it moved, but like barely. It was like, oh my God. Like, I was literally by the sticker and the progress bar was still like barely moved, right? I'll see if I can show you guys a screenshot. That's of what it looked like with ChatGPT's version. It didn't work, guys. And I was like, so like, I felt vindicated, right? Because I knew its suggestion was wrong even before testing it. But when I tested it and it didn't work, like, my confidence, guys, went way up. And let me tell you something here. That is, if you're a developer watching this, do not rely on AI too much. That's the first thing I have to say. Like, because I hear developers are leaning on AI way too much. And I don't know how true that is, but like, do not. But the bigger point that I'm trying to say is, do you even see that even if you're a developer, using AI is limited. It's limited to what you could do using AI. Can you imagine how much the public is being deceived when they're telling people, oh, you could use AI to build websites and apps and stuff like vibe coding. I think that's the trend, right? Caffeine AI at Internet Computer is a good example of vibe coding. Can you imagine how much deceit and how deceptive this stuff is? Even if you're a developer, you can't even trust the code ChatGPT or any AI gives you. You can't even trust that shit. This is why, like, I always tell people this. You could only talk to the AI at your level. You could only talk to the AI because if it's telling you something you don't understand, you're in the dark. You see what I'm saying? But even as a developer, you have to make sure that the AI is telling you the right stuff. Can you imagine for normies who don't know a lick of code what they could do, how much more limited they are with ChatGPT or any generative AI, whether it be Caffeine AI? Yet you have this guy, Dom, talking about Caffeine AI is going to replace engineers and stuff like that. What a joke. What a joke. So guys, the lesson of this story is this. Learn your math. Stay close to your mathematics because you're going to use it not necessarily like a particular equation, right? Is that mathematical thinking that you need. Don't be stuck on the equations. Just do them for fun. But what you really need is the mathematical thinking. And second, don't buy the whole AI hype. That shit's a joke. The whole AI thing, it's a joke, man. It's a joke. And this experience today proves it. I did not lie to you guys. This is the code suggestion ChatGPT gives me, and it didn't work. Didn't work. I'm telling you the truth from the bottom of my heart. God knows I'm telling you the truth. Anyway, I'm done ranting. I'm done ranting. I think you guys know what to do. Don't forget to press that like button and support me on Patreon. I will see you next time.